Greetings, good storytellers. I'm Jack Fulmer, the Artful Narrator, and this is a video that I've been unsure how to make for a while. It's definitely not a writing video. It's kind of an update, kind of a, this is what I'm going through. I don't know whether I'll title it with, as like dealing with depression or something like that. But I don't know whether there's anything in this video that can necessarily help other people that are going through this, other than to just know that it is a challenge that people face. I don't know. So, I don't know who would watch this video. You're absolutely free to skip it. It's perfectly fine. I just wanted to talk about these things because I've been putting it off for a long time. And try to sort through some of these feelings. So, I am someone who's dealing with quite a severe depression, and this is something that I tried to take care of on my own for a long time. I got some good, resources, did research and stuff like that, but I didn't respect the difficulty of it, and didn't give myself enough love and support to, really reach out and get help probably as soon as I should have. And so now I am, trying to find the right antidepressant. There's a lot of trial and error there, and that's difficult. I'm doing therapy once a week to try to find some way to help sort through all of this, because obviously it's different for every person. But for me, a lot of my depression is, mechanisms, well-meaning mechanisms in my body that are designed to, make sure that I stay healthy, that I stay fit, and that I stay positive. But through dealing with my type 1 diabetes and trying to really be sure that I was on top of it and doing a good job and not taking this matter lightly, knowing that I really did have my life in my hands here, of making sure that my blood sugar didn't go too low, didn't go too high, that a lot of this self-criticism that came from trying to make sure that I get my numbers into a safe range, that sort of transcended out of the diabetes area into just life in general, to, you really should have done better with this, or, you're not doing good enough with that. And so I know I don't believe that depression is, for me at least, something that is inherently negative in its origin. I believe it is something that is well-meaning and that has become warped. And so it is something that needs to be approached with love and understanding, so that thing can become mended, and then those internal mechanisms can go back to just helping me to be the best that I can be, as opposed to making me feel bad for not being as good as I feel like I should be. And I heard lots of, I don't know, a lot of people stream now, so maybe you don't, but growing up in the 90s and 2000s, there are just so many commercials all the time, just all the commercials. It didn't matter how many times you muted them. There were just so many, you'd get a lot of this stuff would just filter through. And there were lots of different ones talking about depression and saying, it can be hard to get out of bed and this and that. And even when I was feeling it, I still didn't really see the direct comparison there. I felt like, I'm not doing a good enough job. I need to try harder, because there's this sort of feeling early on that it's like, it's a lot of those motivation, videos of, great sports speeches and stuff like that. Talk about, you got to put in all this effort, 110%, and the only thing holding you back is you, and all this sort of stuff. And like, you feel like that. You feel like you're the thing that's holding yourself back, because it's all these, these emotions inside your head. And so it's like, well, I'm doing something wrong, so I gotta do something different, or this or that. It feels like feels like you're not doing something right, and that can definitely sabotage you, because it makes it feel like it makes it feel like you need to do something different, as opposed to what you need to do is respect rather than think, oh, I'm just not trying hard enough. It's like, no, respect that this is a challenge. This is difficult. And actually take the perspective from being that of, that you are this coach and you're having to, come on, up, you can do this, buck up, you can do this, come on. And change that to instead be that this is this, basically, something more akin to a cold, where, when you've got a splitting headache, and, fever or something like that, you don't go, oh, I just got to pick myself up and do it, and I can make myself better. It's like, no, you understand. It's like, okay, I got to take the next, maybe it's just a couple hours, maybe it's the whole day. Do self-care. Get enough to drink, maybe take a nap, lay back, dial things back, slow down. Everything these days is faster, multitask more. With depression, you can't do that. You have to be all the time tuned into, is this a low level of anxiety you're feeling about something and you can push past it and accomplish something? Or do you need to dial back your expectations and go, all right, feeling a bit of a panic attack right now. I push myself harder is just going to make myself crash. It's going to make this worse. I need to accept that, all right, let's take, again, it's like if you had a really bad headache or something, that's like, okay, well, what do? You take, a Tylenol, have some water, something like that, lay down, relax for a half hour, give it a chance to feel better, then you go back out there and see what, maybe you can't do as much as you had hoped you would be able to do that day, but you need to take that time, get a little bit of self-care in, and wait till you're feeling a little bit better. It doesn't mean that you have to write off the entire day necessarily. It just means you have to dial back your expectations. It's like, all right, I wanted to get this, project completely done. It's like, well, all right, let's dial that back some. Let's get a little bit of the foundation work for that done. Get it set up so that then maybe, tomorrow you can take a bite out of it. Or maybe you can do a little bit of it. But once more, it's about feeling out constantly, where am I now with these emotions? How am I feeling? Can I, give myself that little bit of a pep talk and get something done? Or do I need to respect that this is a moment where I can either do a little bit of self-care, take an hour or 2 or 3 or 4, and then feel better later and get something done, as opposed to trying to push myself, grind my gears, crash and burn, and end up feeling awful that whole day, getting nothing done, and maybe even then feeling awful some into the next day. And so it's about understanding and working with what you have. And that's something that I still really struggle with. It's still really hard to do. And so again, with like the analogies of like, oh, it's, I definitely heard that so much. Oh, depression, it's hard to get out of bed. It's like, that seemed unrealistic. But it's like, no, that is actually what it's like some days. Some days it is legitimately hard to get out of bed. And so you need to dial back your expectations and figure out, because you can be lying there thinking, okay, I got to do this and I got to do this, got all these things. It's like, it's too much. It's like, well, okay, let's take some bites out of the day and do just a couple little things. Let's get up and have some breakfast. And you have to try, and it's very hard for me because I'm someone who's a perfectionist who has big goals and big dreams. And so it's hard to congratulate myself and celebrate small victories and change my perspective from being, I didn't get that big thing done today I want to get done, to I shaved, to I actually had breakfast, instead of not eating until lunch or dinner time. That these are legitimate things where you need to take a moment and congratulate yourself for doing some of those small things, with the understanding that it's not always going to be like that you can work at it and get better, and that it is this process. And that by trying to find that it's this combination of all these different things that is going to finally get you to a better place. And I'm definitely not there yet, but I understand that it is not any one thing. Before, I thought that I could do it all myself. And, maybe if your depression is at a more manageable level, maybe you can. That's awesome. This isn't about limiting people, but this is just about understanding that it is different for every person, and that you may need to bring these different elements together, and this is what I've had to do. And so for me, I've needed to understand that, I already knew that, the medicine wasn't going to be a cure-all instant fix, that I never suspected that. And I never believed that the, therapy, that would fix it by itself. And I believe that I could fix it completely by myself just from, doing the research, maybe getting some meditation apps, things like that, trying to practice mindfulness and self-care, but that it's a combination of all these things, that the medicine is able to help a little bit with some of the neurological imbalances that come from the body, not producing enough of some chemicals and things like that can make you feel more more weary and make it harder to experience those moments of joy. And that the therapy can help you to understand a lot of the things that you're going through, to recognize that you're not being too hard on yourself, or to recognize that you are being too hard on yourself, that you're not doing something wrong necessarily, that these are things you could do to make it better. And so all these things work hand in hand to eventually make it work, but then it still isn't an immediate thing. But it's so frustrating, because I've been trying to think about a good analogy. And it's really hard. Because it's nothing like, and all the analogies I heard, none of it prepared me. Almost like, and again, none of the analogies would even fully describe everything, but like some of the irritation and the sort of vulnerability, the best analogy that I could describe for that, I don't know whether this is relevant to everyone, but have you ever experienced the feeling where you've got a either beverage in a can, or like a beverage in a drink cup from a fast food place, so that you can't actually see how much liquid is in the container, and you reach for it, your muscles believing that that's empty, and so you're not tensing your muscles very much, and maybe you accidentally pick up your friends, maybe you didn't realize, and forgot that you hadn't actually finished this, and that drink that you pick up that you thought was empty is actually full. Now, of course, it only weighs a couple of ounces more. You can pick it up easily, but your muscles are tensed for something light. And so for a moment, when you pick it up, your arm sort of goes, whoa! And it only takes that split second, and then your arm goes, okay, I got it, it's fine. But still, for a moment, you're surprised, like, whoa, that's heavier than I thought it was. And so it's like that for everything. Something has been tweaked from your depression in your head, and so everything, getting out of bed, and driving, talking to friends, everything's harder than it should be. Your mind's saying, this is light. I should be able to pick this up. I should be able to accomplish this thing. It's not that difficult. I've done it before. But something's tweaked, and so it's harder, and so you're fighting against yourself, going, I'm stronger than this, I'm better than this, why can't I lift it? It would be like if that split-second reaction that it takes for your muscles to understand, whoa, I was prepared for this being empty, it's actually full, it's heavy, okay, I got it. It's like if that split second to adapt instead took a day to adapt. So that whole day, everything was heavier than it was supposed to be. It's like that, except you have no guarantee that the next day it's going to snap back. Some days, everything is just heavier, everything is harder than it should be. And it feels so debilitating because these are things that should not be that difficult. And it really messes too with your ability to multitask and process things. And this really is debilitating for me, being someone who's both creative and really really enjoys thought problems and strategy games and things like that. And so, well before, or I would be able to really dive in and games like Total War Medieval 2, and of course Rome 1, wonderful games, but especially I remember really having not just the strategy of understanding how to play both the real-time and the turn-based elements in Medieval 2, but I also had learned the meta strategy for playing as Scotland and understand, okay, England is going, the AI at this difficulty, England will always move to take this one settlement. And I can't remember, it's like they would try to come and take Edinburgh from me, or whether there was some other settlement that was just held by bandits or whatever the equivalent was in that. And so you had to know that the enemy was England was going to take that. And so not only did you have to go, okay, I gotta quick, build this to upgrade my units first, to give me the ability to create this unit, and then quick produce as many units as I can, so I can quick rush there, so I can arrive one turn before them, so that I can take that, then defend it from them. And if I'm able to get that, then I'll be able to have enough settlements and to be able to get a foothold that then can allow me to build up enough steam that then I can fight back against England and eventually a triumph. And so thinking all these different moves ahead and going okay, I gotta be watching this and doing that. Even something there where it's nothing like StarCraft or whatever, where you need to be doing 100 moves a second, or not a second, but a minute. I forget what the gold standard is. It's probably more. It might be 1,000. I don't know. Because you have different units doing different things and queued moves. Here, it's just doing a couple different things. But I tried to get into Stellaris. I'd wanted to play that for a while. I had it. And I was like, okay, now I'm home. It's the quarantine. Why not get into it? I love the Paradox games. I think this will be awesome to see the world building. But I physically couldn't. I was looking at all the things and going I'm just feeling overwhelmed. Not even trying to figure out meta narratives, just trying to figure out what planet to try to take, what units to build, what resource facilities to gather and construct. It's just and the same thing with being creative, that for a long time, when I took, especially during that year when I had taken a break from focusing more on the trope videos, I'd focused a lot on DMing, because one of my friends was having some trouble, and he was like, "Wow, man, if you could, we've talked a bunch. You talked about DMing. You've got all this world that you've created for your books. I'd love to do a game with that. It would really help me out, man. Let's just do that. I know it's not going to be perfect, but that would be a lot of fun." And so we did that. It was great, and brought in another friend of his. I ended up DMing a different game set in a sci-fi setting that I'd created for another friend. And so I was DMing 3 different games for my friends and coming up with all these stories, and it was so much fun, and it helped me get a lot of ideas and hash out some stuff for my book. But now it's it's so difficult, and I've had to scale it back. I'm only running one game now that's super scaled back. For one friend, I'd taken several months off and just not being able to do anything, because you need to think. You need to not only have, when you're DMing and not running a module, doing a custom story that you've created yourself, you need to not only have a basic idea of what you want that 3 to 4 to 5 hour session to entail, as far as a engaging narrative that hopefully fits into a larger story. You then also need to have wiggle room of, well, okay, what if they don't follow that adventure hook? What if they finish this thing faster? What if they end up getting stalled here and this takes longer? Or, okay, that one character that you planned didn't really work. All right, let's bring in another one. And you need to have all these moving parts constantly going. And it's wonderful, and it's fun, and it's so exciting. But I just can't right now. It's so I just feel so limited, and I feel like so much lesser than what I should be. So it's like, or I mean, another good analogy, I suppose, if you're a gamer or a computer, a techie like me. I'm not a techie, I'm a gamer. I know I know a little bit about tech, but the processing power in your computer, where that like, oh, you got a pretty good computer, it should be able to handle this, but suddenly a program that normally doesn't cause that much trouble, suddenly like that game or that editing software program is just lagging the computer terribly, and you're wondering like, wow, is there a virus that's got the computer? Is the antivirus downloading a big update in the background? Something is eating all this processing power, and something that my computer should be able to do with ease, it's struggling. It's like that. All these things that I should be able to do with relative ease and confidence are so hard. And it's just so debilitating. And so at the moment, I'm just trying to work with the process and just get done what I can get done, and make videos when I can, and write little notes on the book when I can, and try to do sessions, DM a session, do that once a week if I can, and if I can't, then at the moment I'm just doing it for one person, and so it's good to know that I have the ability to go, hey, I'm just having a bad week. Can we postpone, and try to just take it day to day, and not push myself too hard, and give myself a chance to get better. And I've heard stories of other friends having these same troubles and eventually getting better, but no one's been able to give me a specific formula of, oh yeah, you do this, and there's no take 2 aspirin and call me in the morning. Everyone, it's different. And so I'm still just trying to figure it out. And so once more, this is mostly just me sort of sharing these struggles, so that any of you who are interested to have some idea, or if you're someone who is going through these same things, the main things I can tell you is that respect it, absolutely, because that you're worth it. You're absolutely worth it. Respect that this is something that it doesn't have to be impossible. It doesn't have to be scary, but it is something that is serious. This is, again, akin to, your body telling you that you have a cold, and so you don't gotta buck up and watch motivational videos and Shia LaBeouf, just do it. Oh, my computer super crashed there. Shouldn't have said Shia LaBeouf. Obviously, those are broken. But no, that it's not about forcing yourself to do it. It's about taking that time to feel better. About reaching out to get help from friends and family, from doctors, or trying to find out what works for you. Understanding that it's very hit and miss. I was lucky, and the therapist that I'm working with seems pretty good. I connect with him. I'd definitely had one before that didn't work at all. And it's the same thing with antidepressants. I've tried several that give me bad side effects, don't give me positive effects, and so I'm still trying to find one that works. And I fully understand. Part of depression is that it makes everything harder to do, and part of that's hard to do is reaching out. And so, but definitely, if you're able to, if you feel that you are having these difficulties, absolutely reach out. You're far better off not trying to go this alone, and yeah, you're going to have a lot of trial and error to try to find things that work. But to some degree, you've probably been doing some amount of trial and error trying to handle it on your own, and so it's absolutely worth it. So that's the most that I can offer. Once more, I don't know what this video will be called. Might just be an update. I don't know. The final thing that's lightly tied to this that I do just want to acknowledge, because it's something that I've been wanting to do for a while. I'll figure out how to do it. Is that I really want to do some videos on diversity. That's really important to me. But doing justice to this is going to require some work and figuring out how I'm going to approach it. Because a lot of gender fluidity and gender identity, a lot of those themes and characters that embody these different personalities, these different aspects rather, are fascinating, and that's something that's really become an important part of my writing. And so that's something that I want to talk about, but I don't know whether it's going to be, videos where because I kind of make two different kinds of videos. I make videos where I say, hey, this is a cool thing. You should use it. And then I make videos that I say, hey, here's a cool thing. This is how you use it. And I like those videos so much more because I feel like I feel like the video has a reason to exist. I feel like it's, I feel like you're getting something worthwhile out of it. But I, as much as I would like to, I don't feel remotely knowledgeable enough to make hey, this is how you should, this is diversity, this is great, this is how you should use this in your stories, because this is representing people's lives, their unique perspectives, rather than just something like kick the dog / kill the dog. And so it is at once infinitely more important, because by having it in the story, you're able to give this wonderful, just burst of empowerment and reshaping of perspective by having that there, because through stories we get a sense for what reality is supposed to look like. We see enough stories depicting reality one way and we go, okay, that's reality to us. It's radically different to other people, but that's reality to us. But by seeing stories that show these other perspectives, that redefines what reality is it makes us realize, wow, wait a minute. And we go from going, there's just two genders, right? This seems weird, to going, oh, holy cow, of course, human experience is this wonderful tapestry. Of course there's more than two genders. And so because of that, it's so powerful. But there's so many different aspects of it to talk about. And so I definitely would want to do different videos. One more on gender, and one definitely on disability too, because that's something that obviously I'm able to speak from more, because that's something that I've experienced. And again, that reshapes the way that we view mental illness. It takes it from, the view that things were in the 30s and 40s where, it's like, oh, head shrinks and cracks. Oh, these, psychiatrists, don't want to talk to them. They'll put you in a straitjacket. Ugh. And oh, these crazy people over in the funny farm, to instead be like, no, it isn't just crazy, insane. It's like, to be normal doesn't mean that you don't have some degree of mental illness. That mental illness is something that at such a wide range and such a wide group of people have. It should be something that is stigmatized less and understood more as something that is more normal. And so through narrative, we're able to redefine what is normal and make things more inclusive, celebrate people rather than discriminating against them. And so, these are all things that I want to talk about, and definitely racism as well. And that's the one that's going to be hardest for me to talk about, because that's the one that I feel I have the least strong understanding of how to discuss this in a way too where it's trying to talk positively, because so many things with with different definitions of gender, with race, and with disability, there's so many negative tropes. And so it's harder to make sure that I discuss this in a way that is trying to be in keeping with the themes of the channel, which is to talk about things positively and to say, hey, this is how you do this beautifully. And so I want to, that's something that's going to be coming, is trying to make a video on that, probably somewhere in the line of like make a video on gender diversity first, and then disability diversity, and then probably race diversity after that. At more just, again, videos on, hey, this is a thing, it's great, you should use it. And maybe later I can make videos that focus on just one specific aspect that is more in the theme of, hey, here's something that's great, and this is how you use it to the best of my knowledge. Because that's the biggest thing, is that I'm white, cisgender, and mostly straight. Although I have had a crush on Tom Hiddleston ever since I saw him in the Avengers. So, the perspective that you approach these topics means that you have it limits or accentuates your understanding of them. And so I'm not an expert at all. And so I want to be sure that I present these in a way where it is just saying, hey, this is something that is worth your time. I'm not an expert on it, but here's some resources. Here's this, consider using this in your story. Because it's something that I never considered including in my stories. I never even thought about it. And it wasn't because I didn't want to have it in my stories. It's just I didn't know this was an option. I didn't know about different genders. I didn't think about, oh, wow, maybe this character should be bisexual, or maybe this character should, completely just not identify, just identify as they, not identify as masculine or feminine. How cool is that? That's wonderful. Understand all of these possibilities, because not only does it make your stories richer, it also can bring joy to so many people. And that's one part that I absolutely understand, because again, I never felt like, I never felt like I was not well represented in stories, being white and straight and male, mostly straight. But then when I got diabetes, I thought like, wow, I'd like to find some stories with a diabetic as the protagonist. That would be cool. I'm feeling insecure. I'm not telling people that I even have diabetes. I feel ashamed. I'd like to feel better about this. It can be celebrated, right? And while there were, sports athletes who had diabetes, that kind of made me feel worse, because like, well, these people, they've done all these incredible things. I didn't want to know that someone who had diabetes could do incredible things. I wanted to be able to read their story, to see that, yes, they're experiencing the same things that I am. But like, I still haven't found a story that I can look to and go, yeah, that's a good story with a diabetic. All the stories that I've found are people that get murdered in murder mysteries. And it's easier to murder them because they have to give themselves shots, so you can just slip a little bit of poison in there. It's like, it's just all bad examples. And it's really disheartening. But like, that doesn't hold a candle to what people who are transgendered have experienced with the way that media has depicted them, or people of different races, the way that they've been depicted. That there are so many negative examples that when you have those times to see a positive example, it's like, wow, holy cow, that person gets it. That person's making a story where, hey, you can have this different point of view and be a hero. And that's so cool. That's so important in my writing. That's what I want to, that's what I'm trying to do in my stories. And so it's crucial to me to have part of that in the channel as well. And it's going to take a lot of trial and error and a lot of trying to say it right. And a lot of humility, owning up to the fact that I do not know how to do this justice, but it's something that's worthwhile. And I'd rather screw up trying to do justice to this than just leave it alone because I feel like it's too hard to do. Because that is one thing that I do believe is that narrative shapes our perception of the world. And so every time that I see a story that highlights someone with a different perspective that I haven't seen celebrated in stories before or seen celebrated frequently, I feel like this is a wonderful thing because it's opening up this perspective. It's widening our view of the world. And instead of seeing things through this little keyhole of conformity of, oh, it needs to fall between these uprights. And that's normal. Everything out to the side. That's weird. That's abnormal. Instead of open that up and realize, wow, actually all of this is not just normal, but it's beautiful. That's something that gives me a lot of hope. So, it's more, this has been a very rambling update dealing with depression video. I don't know whether I'll upload it or not, we'll see. But if I do upload it, I don't know why you would watch something this long and this weird. But if you did, thank you very much. And I'm going to keep pushing ahead and trying to get more videos on this channel. Well, even if I have to sometimes dial it back and go, okay, maybe I can't put in quite as many clips as I'd like. Thank you very much. Until next time.